Hey everybody, it's Jacob Young with White Wolf Films. Today I'm going to be doing an in-depth hands-on review of the Moza Lite Gimbal. So, I ordered the Moza Lite Gimbal a few months back and I've had a chance to actually use the gimbal, so I'm going to be giving you the plus sides, the downsides, the do's and the don'ts, as well as some of my showreel footage that I've done with the gimbal. So I want to take a step back and let's go back to when I first purchased the gimbal. I got it from a company called Intelitech USA, which is of course located here in the United States. Mozas are produced overseas, and when you order them from the actual manufacturer, it takes almost a month to get here. So finding Intelitech, and they told me it'd take about a week. It was definitely a lot more reason to purchase through Intelitech versus Moza themselves. So Intelitech told me it was originally going to be a week when I bought it. It was going to be a few days till they got it in, and then they were going to give me a free upgraded shipping that would take about 2 weeks. Well, a week passed and I still hadn't received my package nor a tracking number, so I contacted them and they told me that they weren't able to give me a tracking number because they haven't received the packages from Moza yet. Well, 1 week turned into 2 weeks, 2 weeks turned into 3 weeks, and it took almost a month for me to get my package. And what I found out is they were middlemaning it for me because they don't actually stock the Mozas like they advertised and told me. So what ended up happening was is they middleman the situation. Moza sent the gimbal to them and then they sent the gimbal to me. I saved $50, but I waited about an extra week. And when you're in the film production industry, deadlines are super important in being able to tell your customer, I'm going to be here with this gear on this date because this person is telling me this, and when they don't fulfill that, that's a big issue for me. So I would not recommend anybody use that company unless they do some pretty major shifts to their business model. Regardless of that, I don't want to let Intelitech reflect the Moza, and I don't want to let the Moza reflect Intelitech. So getting down to the brass tacks here as far as the gimbal itself. When I first got the gimbal, I did not have a stand for it like you see right here. I actually built this one by myself. So when I first got it, you actually have to flip it on its backside, and it takes maybe 10 or 15 minutes to set up. I've heard some people maybe taking 30 minutes or so. Regardless, once it was set up, it worked perfectly and flawlessly out of the package. Very easy to use, very easy to handle, and it's also super lightweight because it's made out of carbon fiber. So I did end up getting the professional package when I purchased the Moza, and that comes with a few added extras. So you get the gimbal, of course, you get the battery, you get the wireless screen, you get a thumb controller, and you get a Pelican style hard case for it. So I'm going to break down kind of each little thing and tell you what I think about it. The gimbal itself, I'm a huge fan of. I've compared it to the Came, and I've compared it to the Ronin, and in my opinion, I don't think the Came really steps up to the plate as far as a really smooth gimbal. Some people like having a little bit of motion in their films, which is totally acceptable. Too smooth can tend to get a little boring sometimes. But I also wanted the ability to have smooth footage when I really needed it, and I didn't want to have all my footage be choppy. So when I looked at the Came came in smooth, but not as smooth as I'd liked, and then the Ronin was kind of top dog, but then here comes the Moza. The Moza gimbal itself was very similar to the Ronin, but as far as price range, the Moza at its base comes in a decent amount cheaper than the Ronin does. So the gimbal itself operates as it should. It's very easy to handle. Let's talk about the battery. The battery itself, I am probably one of the bigger cons with it. It doesn't last for that long. And then when it gets down to about 25 to 30%, sometimes the gimbal will just like totally lose power. It'll say that it's still on, you'll still get a connection, but it'll just go loose, and it won't like shake. You'll just like completely, like the motors will just cut out randomly, and you'll turn it off, you can turn it back on, and it'll come back on. But that's just strictly the battery being dead. It's not necessarily a mechanical flaw with the gimbal, it's just the battery. So I do recommend purchasing them, and I do want to get another one myself. They're just, I believe they come in at $150, so they're not super cheap. Now let's talk about the wireless thumb controller. This is, I think, one of the most important accessories you can get for the gimbal, because I've been on a shoot where I forgot my thumb controller and only had to be able to move the actual gimbal with my hand itself. Now, the thumb controller allows you to set the gimbal up remotely in a certain location without having it handheld, and you can control the gimbal with just your thumb, or you can mount the actual thumb controller onto the handle, and that's the primary application that I use for it. And that allows you to not only while you're stabilizing, but to actually move and pan the gimbal in the direction that you want to, and that's a huge plus for me. So the thumb controller is definitely one of the highest recommended accessories that I would recommend getting with the Moza if you don't get the professional package. Now, definitely coming in at one of my least favorite things about the Moza gimbal is going to be the wireless monitor that they include. I believe it's a 7-inch monitor. Don't buy it. Waste of time. I think it's like 160 to 200 bucks, somewhere in that range. It could even be a little bit more. Thing's a piece of shit. So the quality of it is not even HD, which I understood that before I bought it. I was more going to use it for framing to make sure that my subject was in the actual shot. As far as checking your focus, very hard to do, and sometimes it's more practical if you're trying to get a nice crisp focus, if you're not using autofocus, to actually focus reference off the camera itself. So, but the biggest thing that is the biggest flaw for me is the fact of its wireless signal in between the transmitter at the base of the gimbal to the actual wireless monitor itself. If it's not within about 6 inches, prepare for some very choppy video, and then sometimes it'll completely cut out. One thing that I was really looking forward to is being able to set up the wireless monitor and set it up from a side and have the gimbal somewhere else and be able to control the thumb controller while having the actual wireless monitor, and being able to frame and step back from the gimbal if I didn't want to be in a shot, if it was like a 360-degree pan, which I wasn't able to do. So I do not recommend the wireless screen at all. Now, another cool thing that it includes with the professional package is going to be the Pelican style hard case. Do I use it that much? I don't, because I normally just keep it balanced on my stand so I don't have to take it down, readjust everything. But at the same time, if I'm traveling, if I get on a plane, you want to make sure that the Moza is well protected, because it's not cheap. I believe the professional package comes in maybe it's in between $1,400 to $1,600 depending on who you buy it from, if you buy it new or used. So the gimbal itself is fairly expensive, and you want to make sure it's well protected. And not only that, but when you're going to a video shoot or you're meeting a client for the first time, it looks very professional coming up with the Pelican style hard case, because I also have Pelican style cases for my other camera equipment as well. Okay, so overall, the level of professionalism that the Moza adds to your shooting experience is very high. I am very impressed, and I recommend the Moza to really anybody out there. If you want to save some money and you don't want to purchase the Ronin, but want something just as equal, or close to it, definitely check out the Moza. It's a little bit more expensive than the Came TV, but the results is a lot different in my opinion. There's also videos comparing the three between the Came, the Moza, and the Ronin, and the Moza and the Ronin were definitely the most comparable. I want to say thank you for watching my video. Please like if you liked what you saw today. If you want to see me review something else, or if you have any questions about the Moza, please don't be afraid to comment in the video below and let me know what you think. If you guys like what you saw, I'm going to be making a lot more videos here in the future, especially reviews, or if you want to follow my personal portfolio work, please subscribe to my channel. It means a lot, and thank you to everybody who supports me. Okay, now let's move over to the showreel portion of the video, and you guys can actually check out some hands-on use with the Moza itself.